Mom, I'm going to be a singer. You got a good job, but Johnny. I said, Mom, I'm going to be a singer. But Johnny, that's not the worst part.
What's worse than that?
What's worse than that? I just get a tap on my shoulder and it goes, who's this big guy? And I turn around and it's Trump.
Ciao, everyone. Welcome to the Hardcore Italians podcast. We have John Vincent in today. John, how's it going, man? How are you?
It is great, and I love the studio. It's an honor to be here.
Thanks,
Thank you
man.
so much for having me.
No problem, man. And fresh back from Italy, too. How was the trip?
I loved it. I sang at probably the most incredible wedding I've ever sang at in Taormina, Sicily. And that's where we filmed White Lotus.
Oh, okay.
Season.
Yeah.
So if you saw on my Instagram account, I had a bunch of pictures and stuff. Both nights they had a welcoming party on the beach there and a James Bond theme. And then the next night, the wedding, they had I kept saying the hotel wrong, Belmont to Mayo, and it was stunning. Fireworks show, blue gardenias, if I'm saying this right. See, I speak a South Side Italian, so I made up my own language with my brother-in-law back in the day. It was like, I'd say, hey, how you doing? We know that, but I don't even speak English even though it's my first language. So, but I felt my parents are from Italy.
What part?
Abruzzo, it's my dad.
Okay.
And Toscana is my mother, Luca. And I feel bad. I went to Rome for a couple days, but the whole time I stayed in Sicily. And it was my first time there. I fell in love with Sicily. It was where The Godfather was filmed, right where I was staying. Godfather 2. I'll show you that video. It's the palm trees, the mountains, Mount Etna behind you. Mm-hmm. It was like, and Castamola is this little town, and it's all, the villagers living there, and everybody was so open-armed and, big hearts. I felt like I was at my dad's town. So I felt bad I didn't go see my cousins up there, but Sicily was it was unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it was beautiful. The people are awesome.
Awesome. Italy was great. I mean, Rome, I was there as a kid, so I went around Rome.
Okay.
And I'm going to do Sicily every year. And I'm going to do both every year, but Sicily, that spot, I fell in love with Taormina and Castamola. I mean, it's just, when you
Do you
go
just feel
someplace,
connected, immediately, even though it's not your region? Yeah.
I was just going to say that. I felt so I have a couple uncles born in Sicily and friends and stuff like that who were born there. But, it would always be Italia, and it is all, it's Italy. I know people separate it and this and that or whatever. They say I'm Sicilian or I'm Italian. It's all one. We're all brothers and sisters, the whole place, everywhere, the world, everywhere. Mm-hmm. But Sicily was a connection with the environment and with the people. I think because of that rustic feel, the real feel that my father had in his town. I remember the piazza and everything going as a little boy. He showed me all the little spots, and Castamola had the same thing. Mm-hmm. But you were overlooking the ocean. Then you're looking at Mount Etna. Then you're looking at these mountains over here with these palm trees, and it was like, wow.
Yeah.
And the only time I got wowed like that was when I went to go sing on the big island in Hawaii. And Sicily is more beautiful in my eyes. It is.
Wow.
It was stunning.
That's awesome, man. Well, singing obviously led you to a lot of opportunities. I'm just curious, too. I never asked you, how did it all start? How did you start getting into singing and realize this is the career you wanted to do?
Well, I got my heart broken. I was a recruiter in accounting and finance. I was engaged with this girl. I got my heart broken. I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to go to Vegas. Be an idiot like I always am and gamble and drink. And I'm a horrific gambler in casinos and stuff like that. I've never hit it. I'm just stupid. I never think about tomorrow. I don't have kids. So I'm like, yeah, you know what? Let's just spend what you make. And I went to Vegas. I go out there. And I'm sitting out there. And my buddy got me to see Frank Sinatra a few years before. Probably 8 years before, not just a few. This was 2000, and it was 1993, so 7 years before. And I never listened to Sinatra when I was a kid, because my parents were both born in Italy.
Yeah.
So they didn't listen to Sinatra. They listened to Albano, to Pavarotti, all these Italian songs. And
people from Italy. Yeah.
Yeah, from Italy. Sanremo, they're always watching and stuff to this day. When I heard Sinatra in college, and then when I saw him in college live, something captured me from that man. And
wow.
It was kind of amazing how I got to see him. They got me a suite. My friend's grandfather set it all up. It was crazy. I was a 21-year-old kid. I see Sinatra. I get obsessed with his music. I go to Germany to play football. My roommate, when he's driving, we're listening to Tupac, we're listening to Eazy-E, we're listening to some rap when he drives.
Yeah.
I'm listening to Reprise, Frank Sinatra's album, and when I'm driving. But he goes to me, hey, Big John, throw in That's Life. One time when he was driving. I'm like,
yeah.
And then I go to him, I'm like, hey, Estrus, throw in Dear Mama when I'm driving. And we just felt this connection. And I started singing, just messing around there with Sinatra. And I'm just started to joke around, and people are like, oh, you kind of sound like him, John. Well, fast forward then 5 more years, because that was 95 in Germany. I leave the place where I'm a recruiter at, and the president, who I ended up singing at his memorial, his wake, I loved him very much. He goes, Johnny, you're made to do this. He goes, I got your desk right now, because we had, back in the day, you would write stuff down.
Yeah.
You put files of people you want to get jobs for, and you're calling, making phone calls. And it was a commission job. He goes, we're going to take care of your desk. I know you're hurting right now.
Yeah.
Go to Vegas. Go do it. We know you're nuts. Go to Vegas. So I go to Vegas, and I call my mom on the phone to the Golden Nugget. She's crying. I'm like, Mom, I'm going to be a singer. You got a good job, but Johnny. I said, Mom, I'm going to be a singer. It's just good. She can't. It's hard. I go, I'm going to be a singer. Came back, started messing around a few places. Great place that I sang at was Nuno Pino's in Edison Park. Those guys were awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were great. I started singing there, and Mr. Dana gave me a chance to sing at Rosebud on Rush, or was it on Dearborn? It was Rosebud down there, right from the peninsula. And I was doing Sunday Mondays at the time. So they'd have a piano player, but I'd come in with my CD player,
Yeah.
put it on the piano, and start doing like the same Sinatra songs over. Like, I knew about 4 of them.
Okay.
My buddy, who is a recruiter with me at the time, Tony, goes to Ditka's. I never stepped foot in the place because I always thought it was a tourist place.
Yeah.
Goes in there while this guy is singing. Whoever the singer was that night goes, my buddy's trying to do Sinatra. A manager by the name of Todd Gunderson overhears it and goes, give him my card.
Okay.
He brings it to me, and I'm like, I call.
Yeah.
Come on in, we want to talk to you. I walk up the stairs. There's this beautiful woman at the top of the stairs. They go, Mrs. Ditka, we want you to meet John Vincent. He's going to try to sing here. We're going to audition. And she goes, right now. And I go, I got to get my CDs. I got to get. I'll sing. Thursday. They're going to try me out. She goes, no, I want to hear you right now. And I go, what do you want to hear? And she goes, well, what do you do? I go, Sinatra. She goes, right now. Give me New York, New York. So on the stairs, I'm like, start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. And then I go all the way through it. New York, New York. And she goes, he's hired. She hired me there for 19 years.
Oh, my God.
And they became second parents. I still talk to Coach and Mrs. Ditka pretty much daily.
Wow.
I'll give her a call when I leave her, because I spent a week at their house a few months back. They literally started my career.
Oh,
That's
my
where
God.
the Cubs saw me sing. And it was Joe Girardi and Ron Coomer and Larry Rothschild when they were playing. Larry was the pitching coach for the Cubs. Joe Girardi and Ron were playing for the Cubs. I'm singing Happy Birthday to Joe or to Ron, and they're like, hey, I go, can I sing an anthem at Wrigley? And they're like, yeah, bring him in here.
You just asked him?
I asked him, hey, can I get, and I was like, I was always bugging him back then.
Yeah.
Just bugging people, can I sing, can I sing? And finally, like, they give me 1 anthem and 2 anthems. And then a little further down the road, Mr. Ricketts takes over the Cubs. And I'm starting to get more anthems. I get opening day, and then I get the World Series. And everything changes.
Yeah.
And I look, and I go, this tree, I don't know if you remember the name. Sometimes I forget how old I am, but I don't know if you remember the name Bill Walsh. He was a football coach of the 49ers.
Okay.
And they would always say the Bill Walsh's coaching tree, and all the coaches that came out of there. I have my own Mike Ditka coaching tree. Coach Ditka got me to the Cubs, which were huge. And Mr. Ricketts and Mr. Crane Kenny, the president of the Cubs, Joe Madden, I became friends with him. But Mr. Ricketts and Mr. Kenny gave me an opportunity that I shouldn't have gotten. And that was, nobody wanted to see my fat ass singing in the World Series. Nobody cared. Who am I, right? And I did a terrible job in the World Series.
You
I was
did?
sick. Yeah, I was sick. Like, if you listen to Game 6 of the NLCS against the Dodgers, I feel comfortable with that one.
Okay.
And that was my favorite anthem of all time, because Mr. Ricketts let me go on the field and celebrate with the team and Eddie Vedder and everybody, Cusack. It was amazing. Growing up a Cubs fan on the South Side, it was incredible to be on the field. And then they let me sing in the World Series. We lose that game. I feel like a letdown when we lose. I get a tweet from Lady Gaga, and it says, That's how you do the anthem, amazing, goosebumps. And I knew
Oh my God.
she was being nice. And I'll give you the tweet. She was being nice because, seriously, listen to the anthem and you see my fat ass. Can I say that on this? Sure.
Yeah, you can
guys
say whatever you
want.
want.
Right? I'm cool off. Sorry.
Yeah.
You see my fat ass when I'm holding free, and I hold free for my dad, freedom for humanity, because of the stuff he saw in World War II as a kid in Italy. And you see me kind of step back. I was going to faint.
Yeah, it seems nerve-wracking. What's that girl that just like messed up really bad singing the anthem or whatever?
Yeah, it was the.
I can only imagine, man.
The All-Star game, right?
Yeah.
And then she said she was drinking.
Yeah.
You know, I can totally relate because when I walked out, the umpire goes, or somebody said to me, I think it was the ump or somebody, they go, "You're gonna have about 100 million people watching." And I'm just like,
no pressure.
I was so nervous. I still get nervous, right? But I was so nervous, and my voice, it still gets, tightened up. I suffer from OCD, anxiety, depression, so I have that already. And I always heard Sinatra say, you always got to have a little bit of butterflies, but these butterflies were just like bats banging off my stomach, and I'm just like saying the worst rendition. But when Lady Gaga tweeted it, it changed everything. And I found out she was bullied, and she struggles with mental health and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to any school, anywhere for free, talk about bullying, because I was bullied. I grew 8 inches junior to senior year, but before that I was bullied a lot, bad, physically and stuff. And then to be open and talk about our struggles, what she did, to be in the position she was, to be able to be that sweet in the moment and give a nobody a shout out, gave me a whole different perception on everything.
Yeah.
And it says, okay, now I got to try to do better, because I've messed up a lot in my life, not just professionally. I'm saying with my mental health, with everything, I've been all over the place. And I know that. But I know with acceptance, you can change. And my dad's dying right now.
Sorry
my dad's dying of Parkinson's dementia. And it sucks.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear.
It just fucking sucks, because this guy, he was a bodyguard for Sears. And he brought me to the roof of the Sears Tower before, outside on it. And I remember my crazy ass, I'm like 19, and I'm looking over the ledge, and there was like a guardrail for this was like 1992 maybe. There's like a guardrail from like the highway, and then the wall of the Sears Tower is like that big.
Okay.
But I still had to peek. And my dad goes, "You stupid, get up!" And he goes, "Don't do that," because you just sway,
Yeah.
But I always had that like recklessness in my head from my childhood.
Okay.
And so I'm looking, I'm like, man, I just looked over the edge of the Sears Tower. My dad was a bodyguard there for 27 years. He drove around a gentleman by the name of Donald Rumsfeld, who became Secretary of Defense, but he worked for Sears at the time. He loved my father. But my dad is nothing like me, and I'm trying to become him now. He was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer when he was 67.
Okay.
And I'm just starting Ditka's. It's 2001. I pull up to their house that they're in now, and I'm just crying. I'm crying my eyes out. Wait a minute, Johnny. Wait a minute. Let me tell you something. Johnny, I see kids that they're 5 and 6 years old in Loyola with a cancer. I'm a 67. If I die, I die.
Oh my God.
The things I saw in World War, the things he saw in World War II. There's an article in Sports Illustrated that I just touch on it, that my nonna, when the Nazis put a gun to her head, when my dad was trying to steal a Nazi tarp under the tank, she goes, "Vai prende col tarpa." If I need to make pants and cover the wood, the legno. I don't speak Italian well either. But my dad turns around at the age of 7, and my grandmother has a gun to her head. And that's in February 2017. It's called Freeverse in Sports Illustrated. But since then, and since my father's Parkinson's and dementia has progressed, he's opened up. And I've talked to a couple of my sisters and stuff, and they said they never heard these stories.
Wow.
He's opened up to me about some really horrific stories of what he would do as a little boy in the village. And he would say, "Johnny, I hope you," he goes, I hope you never see what I see. And being very cocky, I'm like, "Oh, Dad, we're fine. Nothing's ever going to happen." Mm-hmm. And you get older, you start looking at things. The world can be crazy.
Yeah.
But when he was a little boy, he got out of school in the 3rd grade, but he was always working. My nonno was gone because he was fighting for Italy. Mm-hmm. And he was gone. And my dad is, he doesn't know what that's going. He said, "You're going out and you're seeing people getting raped by the Nazis in the street in Palena, in Abruzzo." He goes, they kicked us out of the row house and we had to live in a barn. I'm like, what? And my Uncle Benny goes, yeah, Johnny, the part of the barn had no roof. I'm like, what? And then they told me about the time when like the Nazis killed all these horses because they were infected. And they buried them in the pit in Palena, in the town in Abruzzo, which is, there's another town, Sulmona, there's Roccaraso, all that area there. It's a very, there's the most, I think in Italy, that's where the most animal species come from, is in Abruzzo. It's like the most wildlife. It's beautiful, the mountains, everything. And now I'm feeling bad I didn't go there on this trip. But my dad in the piazza told me when I was a kid, this is where your nonna had the gun pointed to her head. But as I got older, he started telling me these horrific stories. And one was, he said, my Uncle Benny and my dad are at Loyola Hospital. My dad's getting knee surgery. It's the year after the Cubs win the World Series. And I tell them about this free verse. And my Uncle Benny's sitting there and he goes, Johnny, no, that's not the worst story. And this is when more stories started coming out.
Oh my God.
And I found out from my cousins, Gina and Linda and even Chris back then, she passed away, God rest her soul. Lisa and Laura, who I hung out with, those 5 girls the most. I was the youngest. So my sisters and my cousins, they were my protectors when I was bullied. They were my family and everything. I said, did they ever tell you these stories? They're like, no, we didn't hear them. The worst one was my Nonna Giconda and my dad and my Uncle Benny. It's 1944, and the Allies are coming up, United States. He said, they're throwing candy to everybody. Everybody's like, getting excited, like we're getting free. And the Italian guy yells out, pace, pace, peace. I'm getting goosebumps. Peace.
Yeah.
The war's over. And he goes, Mama, io voglio giocare fuori con Antonio. No, stai qui, tells my nonna. Tells my dad, stay inside. And Antonio was also my dad's age. So 1944, my dad was 9, Antonio was 9, my Uncle Benny's 7 or 8. And my Uncle Benny's telling me this story. He goes, Johnny, we hear peace. Your dad wants to play with Antonin. I want to go play with Antonin. Nonna says, no, stai qui. She had some kind of feeling.
Yeah.
They hear the planes coming over. In the mountains, it said, Viva il Duce, long live Mussolini. So the Allies came to bomb that off, to say, hey, we're wiping him out. He's gone.
Yeah.
We're coming. We're kicking ass. It's over. Well, what happened was one of the bombs missed the target, which it does in life, hits the row house next to it, and Antonin's head and arms are laying on the ground. Again, goosebumps. And I go to my dad, I go, Dad, like I almost like disrespectfully didn't believe my Uncle Benny, like it's a movie. I'm like, Dad, he's like, and Uncle Benny goes, very calmly, he goes, but Johnny, that's not the worst part.
What's worse than that?
What's worse than that? The shell shock that my grandmother had. She's screaming, looking through the rubble. Dove Giuseppina? Dove Giuseppina? Where's my Auntie Josephine?
Yeah.
They didn't tell me she was part of there. She was 1 year old at the time. She was so shocked, and there's rubble, like in, I don't know if you've seen Saving Private Ryan or any of those movies, like that. You see Tom Hanks in that moment and that shock.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining, they said she's going through the rubble looking for my aunt, and my Uncle Benny has to run up to her and says, Mama, Mama. She had her upside down in her arms, like if we had glasses on her head. And we're like, oh, where are my glasses? I just can't imagine that. And my dad would make shoes out of motorcycle tires because they dug up the infected horses and they ate the meat. And I'm like, what? He goes, Johnny, if you don't have food, you got to eat. He goes, for Christmas, if we got an orange, it was a gift because it came from Sicily. And we knew they were going through the war to sneak this orange up to here.
That's crazy. My grandfather always said the same thing. Like, we got oranges for Christmas. We always.
That's right.
Yeah. That's crazy. Thanks for sharing those stories, too, because I love hearing that stuff because that's what I'm saying. It's almost like, when you think about it, it puts you in perspective, and it's like we don't have it so bad. And the thing is, like, you don't have to go through the hard times if you hear those stories and remember, like, what our ancestors went through. You could take that and use it to be, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people are depressed and you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, if you just think about that stuff, man, how it's like hard to feel not inspired, like, or you have an opportunity now, like, that's our whole thing too.
That's the biggest thing that changed me was when I started seeing, my dad, stage 4, spread to his lymph node cancer. They told him, like, he has 6 months or something like that. And he just told the doctor, he goes,
wow.
You don't know, and I don't know. And I'm watching this guy again. I'm a huge hypochondriac. I'm scared. I'm this, I'm that.
Yeah.
I've started losing a lot of it seeing my father go through this process. Because when he had cancer, he handled it like a champ. Chemo and everything. He's like, whatever happens, it happens. And we're just like, Dad, what the heck, man?
That's crazy.
And the doctor keeps saying, Vincent's going to come back. Like a joke, and I told many people this, 3 times in a matter of 18 months, 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. We go to Loyola, and the doctor goes, Vince, it's going to come back. The 3rd time, like a joke, my father goes, Doctor, you're very nice man, but you're depressing me. This cancer is gone now. So
you got the accent down perfect for that, too.
Because my father, that's exactly how my father sounds. If we called my dad, you would hear him sounding like that.
Yeah.
When I saw the cancer, he kind of like hid it from us. I mean, he was having problems for 6 months. They were in Italy. He came back. My mom goes, you got to go get a colonoscopy. And they told him right there. He goes, you got cancer. And they said, my mother says, it was like somebody said, hey, Vince, we got to go take a ride in the car. And he's like, okay. That's how he said it. Like, I'd be like, what the hell? Oh, my God. My dad was like, what? And he buried 2 younger brothers. And I remember in the hospital when my Uncle Mario died, he goes, why you not take me? Why you take a Mario?
Wow.
I'm like, man. And my Uncle Mario, that was another stud. My dad says, crime is one thing. He goes, but war is, I'll do it for you. Crime is a one thing, Johnny, but a war is ugly. There's no, it's chaos.
Yeah, I can only imagine. That's why we forget how good we have it sometimes, you know? That's why sometimes I think, like, if I'm having a bad day, like, is this, you know what I mean? Like, imagine, you know.
Absolutely.
And those stories are crazier than my grandparents,
You
know?
got to do that because, you know, if you start, like, when I was younger, I was like, we're never going to see that. Now, when he's like saying it to me, I'm like, Dad, you know, I see things on TV, and I know now with dementia, you don't say anything bad because they'll remember things and stuff. You just keep it positive, keep it light. But one day I slipped. I'm like, man, we might see war again. I'm like, this is getting crazy in the world, all over the place, at home, everywhere. Like, people are nervous. And he looked at me, he goes, no, everything is going to be okay. So while I grew up the whole time, he was like, I hope you never see. I hope you never see. You got to do this. You got to. Now he's like, everything's going to be okay. So I'm like, you know what? We're going to be okay.
That's awesome. Yeah, true.
He could have been like Bocelli.
Oh, my God.
And when there's an old video of me and my dad singing My Way at Ditka's. If you look up John Vincent and his father.
Okay.
And I always would have to slow him down on My Way. And he turned it into an operatic thing, you know. And I'd be, and did it my way. And he goes, and before that, second to last My Way, he goes, and did it my way. And I'm like, Dad, we still have another verse. And you could see it in there.
Awesome. Yeah.
But the funny thing is now, when I'm singing My Way, I was just at Cameo last night singing it. I'm singing it more like he sang it. With
really?
More, it's, you know, my favorite version is Sinatra's. One story I heard is from a gentleman who worked in Vegas. He was building the Intercontinental. Elvis was there. Was Cary Grant, Frank Sinatra, and Paul Anka walk into Elvis's showroom, give him this song, and Elvis sits down, piano player sits next to him, plays, and he sings it. And Sinatra goes, that's how you sing My Way. So Sinatra is watching Elvis Presley with Cary Grant and Paul Anka, who wrote My Way, watching Elvis perform it in this empty showroom with the piano player. And if you hear Elvis's version, it's amazing. Like, I love Elvis's version.
Yeah.
I love Frank's version. It's the greatest of all time. And I think you have voices like Sinatra, Pavarotti, Elvis that stick.
Well, who's like the biggest celebrity you've ever performed in front of, or?
I performed at Mar-a-Lago before he was president, and I was singing there at a wedding, and I get a tap on the shoulder. I'm not political with anything. I never get involved in politics.
But you performed directly for Trump?
Yeah, because his son was having the wedding the same day, and he came in there, and I just get a tap on my shoulder, and he goes, who's this big guy? And I turn around, and it's Trump.
Some of the celebrities, they almost like, at least what I see. Is
like Jamie Foxx was.
I was going to say, who's like some of the most humble celebrities that you would never. Yeah.
So I sing in South Beach for Coach Ditka's event, and I love this woman, Sarah Spain, who works for ESPN. She's amazing. Sarah, I don't know if the video's still up there, but when I go in, I don't know who was at the party. There was like 1,500 people. We're at the Ritz in South Beach, and they go, John, when Jamie comes in, you know, don't bother him. Because they knew I'm always trying to bother people. Can I sing? Can I do that? Like, you're going to sing? And then when he comes in, he's going to sing. Like, they're not here for you. They're not here for you. And I'm like, okay. But I'm still like, I've got to, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, I wish I could meet him. So instead of Jamie Foxx coming through the back, he comes through the front doors. He sits right down next to Coach Ditka. I walk up on stage. I'm singing Sinatra, and I'm shaking. And he walks up and he goes, who are you and why aren't you famous? And I go, who are you and why? And I go, well, who are you? I'm John Vincent. I'm joking. And I go, I know you're Jamie Foxx. And I pick him up and I give him a big hug and kiss. And he goes, listen, come sing this new song with me, Blame It on the Alcohol. Now, at that time,
What?
it just came out.
Oh,
I
my
didn't know
God.
any of the words. The girls that I were with, my friends from Ditka's, they were all there. We were all hanging out, all of us. They go, Johnny, it goes, blame it on the alcohol. But I didn't know that at that time. I'm like, blame it on the alcohol, blame it on the alcohol. And I'm just doing this. And I start doing like the Cabbage Patch. I'm like an idiot. The one regret is like, why didn't I ask for like info to switch? Because he said, he goes, why aren't you famous? He goes,
Yeah.
you're so talented. And
That's crazy.
That
Between
was,
that
was awesome. There are many stories of Will Ferrell. Another amazing.
I love Will Ferrell.
John C. Reilly. I got to have dinner with
Those
Will
guys
Ferrell.
are the best.
Yeah, when they were filming, I think it was Step Brothers or something. Or no, they were
Talladega Nights, maybe.
One of them. Coach and Will did the movie Kicking and Screaming, and then Will came
Great
to
movie.
Ditka's, and they walk into a wedding at Ditka's, and Will Ferrell does his Harry Carey impersonation, and Coach Ditka walks in, and you couldn't have made this wedding any better. They had the gift of a lifetime there. Will Ferrell was extremely kind. Vince Vaughn, always extremely kind.
Man, you met everybody.
I did, but all through Ditka's, all through Coach.
Yeah.
I mean, sports players that I grew up with watching. You know, I do the World Series. I think it was either the World Series or no, it was Game 6 where Scottie Pippen does the 7th inning stretch, and then me and Scottie are sitting next to him. I'm like, man, it's Scottie. You know.
Yeah. How about because you were a part of a historic moment with the Cubs, man. Like that's. I don't know, a couple of things, like what was it like in general, but too, like, do you ever talk to Rizzo and all the guys? I mean, that was like, the team was the best. I mean,
I talked to Dexter Farlow last night, and it was on Instagram. I put it on. He was at the party, and I said, man, you guys just gave me. And he's like, John, you guys, he's just so sweet. They're like, you're inspirational. Like Arietta goes, Johnny, you got us rolling that year. And I'm like, what? I'm like, no. He goes, we loved hearing you sing. And I'm like, I know you're being kind, dude.
No, it jacks you up because you like hold what part you hold a little bit longer.
Nobody goes to Wrigley Field to watch me sing the national anthem. If
No,
they're
but
gonna
it's
say John Vincent singing the national anthem, you know who'll be there? My mom and dad. If they say the Cubs are playing, you got a full stadium, right? And
the Cubs packed the house no matter
they
what.
packed the house no matter what. You saw it that day, and what it showed me is that they didn't have to do that for me.
Yeah,
Mr. Ricketts, seriously, I think it was Fallout. The guy from Fall Out Boy did the first game, and then I did the second, and we lost, and we were down 3-1, and then Wayne does the third home game, we win, and then we win the other two in Cleveland. I take it very personally when we lose. I'm like, oh crap, like I didn't get us fired up, and but we win. They give me a World Series ring. It was crazy, and to me, loyalty is everything in life.
Yeah.
If you don't have loyalty, you'd have nothing. And I will always be loyal to Mr. Ricketts, to Mr. Kenny, to the Cubs organization. The Green Bay Packers were amazing to me. I sang up there, and I'm good friends with Coach McCarthy. So I got to root for the Cowboys. He's my guy. I sang at Jerry Jones' 80th birthday party, and he brought that world into me. He had me sing for the Packers. I sang for the Bears when Coach got his number retired. I sang for the Bulls and the Sox. Mr. Reinsdorf is incredible. He's an incredible guy. He's always been kind to me. He was friends with one of the owners of Ditka's, and he's always been sweet to me. The Wirtz's family, very kind. So I've been blessed because of that tree of Coach Ditka. There's so many good singers out there. There's so many good entertainers that people don't get to hear. Now we're getting better with, you can do stuff
internet.
online. People can see on internet, social media, all these places. You can get more exposure. But there's still, you don't get it. Sometimes people just don't want to sing in front. But there are so many incredible singers out there. I just got lucky.
Never get a chance. Yeah, that seems.
Just got lucky.
Because when you're saying about Lady Gaga and Jamie Foxx and stuff, it seems like talent kind of recognizes talent. They're willing to go out of the way to help. Like you know what I mean? They know they're helping, but that makes sense because it's not.
But in my head, I'm still that little boy where I hear my voice, it sucks. I hate hearing my voice. I do not listen to my voice. And when I hear
Did you do like any training? Like how'd you get? No? That's what it sounded like to me. It sounded like you just went from singing in the car to now you're like with all these celebrities and with the Cubs.
It was Coach Ditka. See, when I went to
that's
Ditka's,
crazy, man.
It was, he pulls me aside, and the first night I sing, Coach was doing play-by-play for the preseason for the Bears. So the first guy that really brought me in and like, Coach, you got to hear this guy while he was sitting there before was Mrs. Ditka, Misty, and Steve McMichael. Then Coach comes up. Steve's up there. He had the chihuahua on the table. It was hilarious. I'm like, Mike, this is surreal. He signed a jersey for me. He goes, to Johnny, I love you, Steve. It was a game-worn jersey from McMichael, and he gave it to me. I was like, oh, my God. And he brings me in, and then Coach starts talking to me. And he's like, starts getting closer and closer. And he goes, hey, whatever voices you do, kid. And I'm like, I do Sinatra. He goes, what else? I go, Sinatra? He goes, well, you're doing the same 6 Sinatra songs over again. I love it. He goes, it's fine with me, but the crowd and the wait staff and everybody just keeps hearing the same songs over and over again.
Yeah.
He goes, if you want to be successful, try some different stuff. You ever try any Dean Martin? No. You ever try any Elvis? No. You ever try? So from that, I went to 26 different voices. Louis was the one that, I see those trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom. And then, the Sinatra was the start. And then, Ray Charles, I do about 5 or 6 Ray Charles songs. Johnny Cash, Elvis.
What is it about that genre you think that connected you? Because like you said, your parents listened to, or your family
my buddy in
hardcore.
college and my sister Lisa, who said Johnny, and she's always cheering me on. My sisters Lisa and Laura both cheering me on. They say you sound just like him. I don't.
Because it's hard to impersonate and or get that voice down.
You know what it is? I think
you must have felt real connected.
It's my OCD, because they say Sinatra's phrasing. So Frank Sinatra, from what I understood, was very immaculate, clean, took 2 to 3 showers a day, was very and that's what made Sinatra Sinatra. He had the best musicians around him, and they followed his lead. I didn't do any of that, except my OCD caught on to his phrasing. And that's the biggest thing Frank had was, when you do, so you got Sinatra, hey Siri, play Fly Me to the Moon. Fly me to the moon, let me play amongst those stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. See, he held it longer there. In other words, baby, kiss me. And I would listen to it over and over again, loving the music. And then, so any Sinatra
it seems
song
like he's
start,
real intentional about the pausing.
he is.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's the biggest thing. And I think my OCD got the phrasing down. And when you get the phrasing down, and I had somewhat of the sound, again, if I sing a song, I hate hearing my voice. If I hear Frank sing it, I listen to it all day long. And but I feel like I kind of got that phrasing down from that, from my OCD, where it was just like I'd listen to it and it would just stick. Like even any when you do Louis Armstrong, my Louis Armstrong is way off of the original, way off. Because when you listen to him, you're like, wait, he isn't that gravelly. I do too much of the gravel. It's more of, I see those trees of green, red roses too. And I struggle there because it's easier to go, I see those trees of green, red roses too. Just trying to, growl through it almost. Louis, when he does it, he's singing it.
Yeah.
And I had to keep thinking about that. And my brain, it's a curse and a blessing in a way. I was talking to somebody about OCD. I'm like, if you don't have it under control, it'll ruin your life. But if you get help, which I've been in therapy since I was 17 years old, if you get help for your mental health is just as important as physical health. And I think, and I believe that your guys' generation are much smarter than us because you guys are open to it. I believe you guys are. We didn't talk about it back then. When I went to my parents, they're like, "OCD, what is this? Come on."
It doesn't
wasn't
exist.
talked about.
Yeah.
And my sisters are like, "Let's take you to go talk to somebody." When I was 17 or even 16 years old, and that, if I didn't do that, I don't know where I'd be today. I could be.
Yeah,
dead.
it's like
I don't know where I'd be.
It's like a weakness is a strength now.
Yeah, I attempted suicide back about 8 years ago, right after the World Series 2017, same year. I was like, there's a lot of pain, and pain, like I said, comes from pain. But there's only 2 feelings in life: fear, which then has anger, jealousy, resentment, envy, all these things from your brain, and love. This is what I believe, anyways.
Yeah. From
your heart, spirit, inner being, and with that comes compassion, kindness, whatever. The biggest thing is we all screw up. None of us are perfect.
Yeah, no one's perfect.
We can't. We don't have to compete with each other. Once you stop competing, you win.
Yeah.
I know we all want to be like, in the 90s were like that too, in a way. We're like, oh, you got to be a beast. You got to be this. You got to be that. And the 80s kind of had that feel too. And I kind of feel like that's coming back again. It's like, no, you don't. You don't have to control anybody. Control yourself, because I had to learn to do that because I have a horrible gambling addiction, a horrible eating addiction. You don't get to I'm 299 pounds now, 298. You don't get to 450 by not having a compulsive addictive personality. And that comes from trauma when you're a child. And we need to be less afraid of talking about this and less afraid of being vulnerable. And
1,000%.
I did it, and I talked about it on national TV. My parents, why you talk about it? You look weak. I said, no, we can't keep things quiet. We got to tell what hurts and get help.
Yeah,
get the help you need. Whatever, it's
you
not
never
a
know
shame.
if you help one person just by vocalizing it too. I mean, that's the difference right there. So,
and the other thing is we can't be that hard on ourselves. Like I beat myself up my whole life because I was so insecure. I wanted to be the best singer, which I never can be the best singer. I want to be the best football player, which I never could be the best football player. I played pro in Germany, but that's not the NFL. The NFL, when I sing the anthem in front of them, those guys are flying by you. I've had friends now in the NFL, and those guys will knock me down when I was 22 years old with one hand.
Yeah.
There's a different level. But I always wanted to be the best because I always felt the worst. I always felt ugly. I always felt stupid. And that I took out on the world. No, John, you should hear this guy singing. No, I want to sing. Now it's like, here you go. Man, I can sing less, man. I'm getting old. Sing with me. Here, take the whole thing over. And that's the thing I'm happy about, that I let go, and I still have ego, but I let that part go where I'm like, no, I don't want to compete.
It's kind of hard with social media too. I feel like it's just a place where everyone's trying to compete, and they think you think everyone's lives are picture perfect, and really, they only post the good shit, not the bad stuff, and it kind of it puts you in a bad place sometimes,
One of my first posts after I attempted suicide, I said it on a post, and if you go deep enough on my Facebook and Instagram, you'll see a thing from I think it's Band of the Broken or something like that, where they do the interview and I talk about my suicide attempt, and I think that one video I did, or the other one, I did one on my own, I did one with them, had the most responses on any of my Facebook stories ever, or posts, because it was raw. I did it without thinking. I was almost crying on it. And because I thought I had nothing to lose. I was like, I'm done. I don't care. So I just posted it live. It was Facebook Live, that's what it was.
Okay.
And my mother called and she's like, why? I go, no, I had to be real. I had to be raw again. I'm not going to hide how I feel. There's too many people out there. When I start talking about my mental illness, my addictions, my messed up brain, how crazy I feel, how sometimes I feel nuts and like I don't belong in this world, they start telling me the same things. They're like, wait, John, I feel that way too. And my family would always say, see, you just tell people, Johnny. I'm like, well, maybe we all should.
Yeah.
But the problem is sometimes we tell people and they'll hurt us. And sometimes not intentionally. Sometimes we just talk. I have one of the biggest mouths. I drop more names than, anything. I can't even come up with an analogy, but I'm like, because I'm insecure, I would name drop all the time. All the time. But it also would help my career. I sang for this person. I met that person.
Yeah.
So there's a balance.
Yeah.
You can't care what people think about you. You have to care what you think about people, because that's what's going to take your attitude and everything. Mm-hmm. I love my Italian heritage. I love that I'm first generation. I love that my father made homemade prosciutto, homemade sapressata. My mom made homemade noodles, homemade sugo. I mean, the sauce, everything was homemade. The vino, everything.
Is there traditions your family still does that they brought over that
they did? Mm-hmm. I don't do it. I don't make homemade wine. Some of my cousins, I think, still do. But no, I don't carry on that tradition, which I'm ashamed of. I should.
Well, I feel like you got the singing thing like your dad sang, so I feel like you're carrying that on. You said too, you want to be more like him.
Because I do feel, feel that.
You are
my
doing
dad
that.
always wanted, when he was working, he was the last one to come over here, and he came by boat.
Okay.
And he said,
did he ever say any stories about how it was traveling by boat?
Oh yeah, I don't know how long. It took a long time, but he was on I
heard it.
Deck.
Yeah, I heard it's weeks with no food.
Yeah, he was in the bottom deck, really poor. He was working in Corsica, sending money back to his family here in America, digging tunnels. They were doing some underground tunnel work, and I don't know if Italy owned it, and then France took it over. However, that happened at the time. But he was working there. Went back to Italy. Takes the boat then to New York. Ellis Island is not there at the time, and he says. Somebody said to him when he gets off the ship, Dago, go home. And my father looks at him, he goes, I'm a home. One thing about my dad, I never saw him back down. Now, a man like that can do that. A man like me can't, because I want to be that way, but I have too many apprehensions and fears. Where my father, I think, just growing up, seeing death right away, seeing the horrors of World War II right away, he's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And he, to this day, at 89,
that
he's
changes
like,
you.
I'm holding him, I'm trying to pick him up, and he's like, I got it. And I'm like, Dad, I go, you're almost falling. He's like, I got it.
That's crazy. You're changed for life when you experience that. That's crazy. You're just a whole different person. Wow.
I mean, it's unbelievable to see that. I've been blessed with a beautiful family, blessed with a beautiful extended family, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles. Christmas Eve on the south side of Chicago by Midway Airport, we would open up one gift. And I remember one year I wanted parachute pants so bad. So I think my mom and dad gave me a pair of parachute pants. It was a big thing back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, Michael Jackson, we loved Michael Jackson. Thriller came out. You know, it's like I'm wearing a members only jacket, sunglasses, one white glove. I'm like 11 years old. I'm like, I love Michael Jackson. I love this. My cousins and my families, the aunts and uncles, are in a bungalow on Monitor and 62nd, drinking, playing cards, and it's full of smoke. There's like 30 people there, and there's a bunch of kids in there. There's people smoking cigarettes, playing cards, and we had Feast of the Seven Fishes, but we didn't. Back then, octopus was cheap.
Yeah.
Squid was cheap.
Yeah.
Eel, which I don't know if people eat eel now, eel was on there. And we had fish like bacala and all that. We didn't have the shrimp and all that back then. We didn't have that. It came later.
Yeah.
But those were my favorite Christmases. 30, maybe 40 total, all of us together, because it was 10 brothers and sisters. One stayed and my Auntie Mary stayed in Italy. God rest her soul, she passed away. But there were all of us there, all the cousins, and then we would go outside and play football. That night, that one Christmas Eve, those are my best memories of all at my Nonna Giconda's. That one Christmas Eve, I get my parachute pants, I put them on to play football like a dummy, and I go between the cars to make a catch, because that's how you get your first down in the street playing, you know, and when the car comes by, time out, let them go through.
Yeah.
Rip my pants. They were never the same at that time.
Oh, God.
My dad goes, you should have waited to put the pants at. Why you play with those pants? You should have played with the other pants. And he goes, think about it. I go, I don't think too much, Dad, sorry. But those, man, they would sing down there.
Yeah.
And they would sing, you know, the Italian music. And my dad would sing, you know, Nessun Dorma. And he would sing, Torna sorriento fame. No, I don't even know. I think it's fame canta or campa. See? Vido mare quante bello. Now I'm going to ruin the words because I don't know it. So I don't want to say what's wrong. But my dad would be sitting there. My uncles would be smoking, playing cards. My aunts would be playing cards. We're all there. We'd come down as kids to sing a few songs. We'd do the 12 Days of Christmas. I would do 5 golden rings. So maybe there was something there, because I would have 5 golden rings. But my dad would be the one singing. And my Uncle Benny and my Uncle Mario, my Uncle Sal would be on the accordion. You know,
the accordion, that's awesome.
And he played it.
That's awesome.
That was my godfather, my Uncle Salvatore. He was just like Dean Martin. He was the coolest uncle, where he was always like he had a cigarette in his hand. And like, hey, Johnny, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, Johnny, have something to eat. Uncle Sal, I'm good. Come on, have something. And this guy was always smooth. Mm-hmm. And he passed away, and you start seeing these. My Auntie Mary passed when I was young. My Uncle Benny's wife, when she was 50. But my other uncles passed away, and those really hit us too. And then my cousin passed away, and you start seeing life. Mm-hmm. And then you start seeing what life really turns out to be. But you got to remember, you got to understand we're all in this race together. Some people have different size boats, cars, whatever, houses, but we're all in the same thing together. We get out with nothing. I was just talking to a buddy this morning. He says, you don't have a U-Haul behind a hearse. I've heard that many times.
Yeah.
And I maybe live too much for the day and don't save and don't think, but sorry about that. But I always felt that you got to turn it into a positive. You have to. Any situation you have, turn it into a positive. Because if you don't, what's the point?
Yeah.
Today is all you have.
Yeah.
When tomorrow's here, it'll be today. When yesterday was here, it was today. And when you live in the present moment, and that's what I think, not just Italians, but all people
I was just going to ask you, I feel like a lot of Italians think about that.
Well, we worry. We have the guilt. We have the worry. We worry about things. And we're like, when you notice, not just Italians, but every group, and let's just make it real, the human race, what do we thrive on? Music, love, food. Those things bring us into the moment. Mm-hmm. Alzheimer's and dementia patients that sit there with nothing and they put headphones on them, start moving. Why Tony Bennett, he couldn't, remember what he had for breakfast, but when he got on stage with Lady Gaga at the end, he still got every song. Why when we get taught our ABCs, it's in a musical thing. A, B, C, because it connects with us.
Yeah.
Music connects with the soul. And that's not only with Italians, that's with the human race.
Yeah.
And I think music brings us all together. I think food, music, and parties, that's what life, I wish it could be all the time. We all wish it could be, right?
Yeah.
But every nationality, every race, every person that I know loves those three things. I don't know if you've ever found anybody who doesn't like music. I might have came across one or two people, but
no, never.
I don't know how I'm getting text with airplane mode on. I'm not hooked up to Wi-Fi, nothing. But
don't worry.
Yeah, to me, I took a lot of the old world thinking, and I just, with OCD, not having friends when I was a little kid, I spent a lot of times alone playing with He-Man, G.I. Joes, playing. My brother-in-law used to say, I used to remember you being in Wentworth Park on the south side, and you'd be shooting baskets by yourself all the time, just shooting baskets. When I finally got big enough to not be afraid to go outside and be bigger, I was just always playing sports. And
so what's next for you though, John? What's next on your agenda, man? Because you're getting all the success. What's the goal?
I leave Sunday for California. My buddy, who's a VP at Google, he has this golf outing out there, and I've been doing it for the past 5-6 years. John Farrar, I love him. I just did Sicily. That wedding was amazing. I'm going to Google. My buddy at Google sing out in El Dorado Hills, California. I'll be out there next week, performing 3 nights. Then I have New York City, a big event in the Grand Theater, the 20 Friends Party in Wausau, Wisconsin. That is every other yearly thing. A buddy of mine, Tony Sweeney, always hires me for. I got the Thanksgiving Day Parade I'll be singing for again. Another anthem with the Cubs before the year ends on the 28th. I'm doing the anthem for Loyola Academy tonight. Came by here today, which is a huge honor. You guys have what, 800,000 followers?
Yeah.
I have 7,000. So this is huge. I don't consider anything of me except for my head and my nothing's huge on me except my big fat body. But I mean, to be on here is huge, man. To be on here, because you got to use social media when you sing. I wouldn't be on it if I wasn't a singer. I wouldn't. My buddy had me go on it, Facebook, like 4 years after it came out. He's like, you got to do it for your singing. And he was right, my buddy Johnny.
Yeah, people love it, man. At Taylor Street Fest when you were singing, we went live, and it was getting, I think you had the most views on our live we ever had.
And see, that was you guys. You guys gave me that exposure. Coach gave me that exposure. The Cubs gave me that exposure. Mm-hmm. That's what gets me that loyalty. I got a bunch of stories. I could talk to you guys for hours.
I'd like to have you back even or something too, because I'm loving all these stories, man. This is awesome. You talk about real stuff. I appreciate you opening up and just kind of giving us your raw, like everything, man. Just all the experiences, stories. You're just, I don't know. It was cool, man. This was a fun interview for me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm honored to be here. Like I'm telling you, this is an unbelievable platform. Meeting you and your dad and everybody, singing at the fest. That was that fest I used to go to as a kid that my mom and dad took me to. And singing at it. I've sang there before, but singing at Hardcore Italian's booth, that was a fun experience.
Yeah,
and I want to do that again next year.
Yeah,
I want to come by and do it again. It was just fun.
That was crazy,
you guys,
man.
The plaque you guys gave me, man.
I want you to know we appreciate it.
You're too nice.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, I don't know if you saw the full video again, but you got to watch it back. There was so much cool stuff. That's why you just ran with the flow with everything. You're like dancing with people, this and that. I was like looking around in glory too. Like you said, music brings people together, man.
Music does.
You're doing an awesome thing, and just it's an experience watching you when you hold the notes and when you're doing the accents, and you're killing it, man. Keep it up, and thanks for coming by again.
No, it's my pleasure. Do you sing it all?
No, not at all.
No. What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite Sinatra song?
That's Life, probably.
My Way? Okay, so we'll do a little mix. Let's see if I can kind of mix them. And I'm gonna roll myself up in a big ball and die, and did it my way.
I love it, man. Safe to say you would pick Frank Sinatra over Dean Martin then?
I love them both. Dino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, John. Well, thanks again, man. And where could people, is johnvincent.com or something like that?
John Vincent Live.
John Vincent Live.
On Facebook, on Instagram. My website is also John Vincent Live, JohnVincentLive. So John Vincent Live, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and website.
Okay.
And I do a lot of corporate and private events, but I will be doing my holiday shows at Rizzo's across from Wrigley in December every Sunday this year. And I do hire, for weddings, corporate events, private parties, and I'll be going out again and doing shows publicly again, like I used to do at Ditka's, because I miss that interaction. I really do.
Yeah.
And I love doing these corporate events. Don't get me wrong, but you get corporate events and you get other events by interacting with everyone.
Yeah.
And singing in a setting like a bar or a restaurant is so much fun, because that's how I started.
Yeah, and that's what I was just gonna say too. I know you gave a little preview of the singing on the podcast, but it's nothing. You got to see him in person. The way you interact with people, man, it's the best part about it. It's what I thought was the best on Taylor. So, thanks again for coming in, man, and appreciate it.
Oh, man.
You're welcome anytime, man. Thank you.